So, further to my previous video about grief, I'm glad I did it. I do hope nobody's watching, or nobody I know that knows me. It's funny talking about it. It does make you feel better. Feel a bit better after having made that video. I think writing things down in the journal helps. I do write things down occasionally. But going back to grief and what it does to you, one of the things you might expect, if and when it happens to you, is, as I mentioned before, the crying. I found that I could go outside and pretend to be normal in front of people to a certain extent, but there were certain times where I would just cry. Even in public, for some reason, going around Tesco's would set me off. I would often do all my shopping just with tears streaming down my face, snot coming out my nose. Couldn't do anything about it. Couldn't stop crying, but I needed food. Had to carry on shopping. It's embarrassing. I kind of get used to it, crying in public, crying in Tesco's. I cry all the time when I'm driving. I cry on my way to work, cry on my way home. Not every day now. That's good. It's not every day. When I first went back to work, I cried on the way to work, all the way to work. I cried at work. That's when I had to start smoking. Well, I didn't have to start smoking. Well, I needed... Oh, I don't know what I could have done, really. I wouldn't have been able to keep the job. But smoking did help me stop crying, so I'd cry on the way to work. I'd have a cigarette outside before I went into work. I could do an hour or so's work, and then it'd come over me, something might trigger me. I'd make my excuses, might pretend I was going to the toilet, whatever. I'd go outside, have a cigarette. The tears would go away. I'd go inside and do a bit more work. And I could act quite normally. People thought I was all right. Amazingly, you can't see somebody's grief. You don't know what's going on in people's lives. You don't know. I can't believe I acted so normally. I still do. I still do act normally when I'm around people. And when I'm at home on my own, I'm not myself at all. I've always been a bit of a TV addict. I don't watch soap operas and stuff like that. I like nature documentaries, my favourite. Crime documentaries. True crime. That sort of thing. But when I'm at home now on my own, I can't have the silence. I have to keep my mind occupied all the time. I have to have the television on, and while the television's on, I'm playing a game on my phone. I can't bear the silence because it just reminds me that he's not there. He's not there and he's never coming back. I've just got to learn to accept that. But I am better than I was last year. And I'm better than I was 2 years ago, so, you know. Perhaps eventually I'll be okay. And if you're going through the same stuff, you know, perhaps eventually you'll be okay too. I mean, life's never going to be the same. Life never be the same for me, because there won't be anybody. Carl was a very unique person. He was extremely intelligent. Very, very funny, extremely funny. I used to call him the mad genius. He had an absolutely encyclopedic knowledge of films. You could say a film to him and he would know all about it. He'd know who directed it, who produced it, what the actors' names were. He'd know personal details about their lives. He once told me a story, and I think it was a film from about, it was a black and white film, I think, from about the 1930s to 40s. Like really obscure films he'd know all about. And he actually told me a story about one of the something happened when one of the actors went to get his lunch. I can't remember the story. But yeah, it just amazed me. I think he might have been a bit autistic, you know, my Carl. He struggled with some things, but he was highly intelligent. Very intelligent, very funny man. I think that's why I loved him, because he made me laugh every day. You know, didn't matter what we'd got, what we hadn't got. We used to go out for walks together. Both love nature. I love nature. I know a lot about nature, actually. Yeah, and that's one of the things we used to like to do. We used to like going out walking, bird spotting, both kind of amateur twitchers. He's more knowledgeable than me, but I still like it. But that's something I find hard now, going out for walks in nature. It just makes me think of him. Anyway, I don't seem to have a sense of humour anymore. Can't laugh and joke around like I used to. Perhaps normal service will be resumed one day. I do have good days. I have good days and I have good weeks. And I'm sure a lot of people think I'm coping because I can act. I act normal when I'm amongst people. If they only knew how I felt inside. And one of the physical things I have found is I understand now what it means when somebody says they've got a heavy heart. Sometimes I can actually feel, I'm sure I can feel my heart. It feels like a brick. It feels heavy like a brick. I get like a heavy pain in my chest. Not a pain, really. I don't know how to describe it. But it does feel like a heavy heart. Anyway, it's enough of this nonsense. And I hope normal service route will be resumed very soon.